Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan and you're watching my WOS Wrestling overall thoughts. So with this we're going to look at the good and the bad and like I say the overall product. If you want to know about individual matches, I've got 10 reviews reviewing each of the matches. This is focusing on, again, the 10 weeks as a whole and the product as a whole. So there'll be positives, there'll be negatives. Might as well just start off with a negative, get the negative ball rolling, just so we can end on a positive. So, Adam Maxted, a new up-and-comer, an Irish lad, good wrestler, as we all saw throughout the show. My issue with it was in the beginning. It was definitely throughout most of Bromance. It wasn't until the Bromance dissension started that they stopped mentioning it, but Love Island commentary just loved mentioning it, and the one thing they always said was he went on Love Island to make himself known as a wrestler and to become more known. When you're on commentary on a wrestling show and all you're talking about is him on Love Island, you make it seem like he wants to be remembered for Love Island. What like, fair enough, you started. If you recognise his face, it's Love Island that you recognise him from. And he's done it to know more wrestling, and since then he's been booked here and here and here. Like, maybe you can't mention names, but you just say he's been booked all over the country type of thing. Saying Love Island every single week just isn't something we want to hear, really. Like, do you recognise his face? Yes, but where from? That's Love Island. Do you think he's good? Check him out at these places. And, yeah, like, that's how I felt it should have been. But the constant Love Island mention just... He didn't... I say he didn't. He was definitely a fan favourite throughout the Bromance stuff, but he just... It wasn't there for me, like, just the constant mention of it, and I didn't enjoy that. And since we're on commentary negativity, again, I love the commentary team. This was all stuff that happened early on. But the real life relationship stuff, Will and B, and Stevie and Kaylee Ray, of course, Kaylee and Stevie and B and Will couples. But it was, especially on the Will and B side, it was overly mentioned. Of course, it did eventually build up to the mixed tag match that they did, but I feel like that's all you need to mention it for. But it felt like B came out and it was girlfriend of Will Ospreay, and it was mentioned for a couple of weeks, and then again, what you said with Kaylee Ray and Stevie Boy, it was mentioned that they're like the real life couple, and that's not what it's there for. Like, you mention it, then you have the mixed tag match, and I feel like that's where you leave it at. There's no focus on them being in a relationship with each other, because being in a relationship isn't what's important, it's what each individual can do as an individual. Like, B's came on it, like, early on, when she was very heavily just Will Ospreay's girlfriend, which again was stupid, but when that's all she was, like, nobody knew her, nobody cared. But then came the Munster, and what happened with the Munster? She became awesome, and obviously it says she grew in talent. And then it's the same with Kaylee Ray, really. She didn't really become the Munster, per se, but... Well, no, like, I say Kaylee Ray. With that, like, that's the other thing. It was the opposite way around for them. Kaylee Ray was the known one, and it was like, this is Stevie Boy. This is her boyfriend. And the relationship drama stuff just doesn't go well with wrestling, as we've learnt a lot and are currently learning in other places. And so, yeah. I feel like those were my only two knacks with the commentary, was the constant, look, these people are in a relationship, they're in love, and Love Island with Adam Maxted. And of course there was a few commentary slips, but that's bound to happen, but those aren't things that were show ruiners type of thing. I didn't really ruin the show, but it just brought it down a couple of pegs. Next, well, again, we'll try and get all the negatives out the way. This one's close to my heart. Editing. I understand it's ITV. It was prime time. It started at, was it 5 till 6, and then they brought it to 4, I think, and then they slowly brought it down in time, and obviously it ended at half. Like they didn't have to till 3:30 time slot to end it on. So early afternoon, mid afternoon type of situation. ITV. I understand there's certain things you can't really show. So the crowd shots were one thing where it was just, oh look, here's the crowd, and sometimes that was a killer because it was, I can't remember which episode it was, but it was one of the couple towards the end, and I believe I mentioned this in the review for said episode. I might have just tweeted it, but it was something had happened, and commentary were like, "Did you see that?" type of thing. Like, it was always like, "Did you see what just happened? Oh my god!" And it's like, well, no, we didn't see it because you showed us this guy who was just. That's what we saw when there was flippiness happening. And hard hits some of the time. But that's one thing. And then the other thing is, speaking of editing, was the constant camera cuts. Some moves would see somebody against the turnbuckles in the corner. There'd be one person, the other person, running towards them. And within those 5 paces and then hit, there's been many camera cuts. And I feel, again, this is just somebody who's talking, who edits and has watched wrestling now for a bit. I feel, let's say we're going for the corner thing. We have your hard cam shot of person running. Person just keeled over in the corner. So hard cam. They're about to jump. And then that's where we cut to seeing facial expression of person hit. And then camera person down here to watch the person being hit fall down. Where with World of Sport, it was person running, person in corner. Let's have a shot here. They're getting hit. Let's have a shot here. They're about to hit them. Let's get a shot here. And it was always just quick rotation shots, and sometimes it went back to the same camera, and it was just constant cuts. And this was something for me at first. I didn't realise it was in the first couple of weeks. It was something that I looked by, or just didn't notice, just enjoying the wrestling. But once I saw it mentioned, every week after, it was something I noticed, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is really bad. And I don't want I'm not taking anything away from the product. It was a fun product, but constant camera cuts and crowd shots just weren't good. And yeah, it was every week. And then, for me, I feel like that was the negative stuff for the show. The main production, I say, of the wrestling was great, but like I say, each match reviewed 10 weeks, all on the channel. And that's why my reviews were always so positive, because I was reviewing the matches, and the matches were great. They were never meant to be negative, because the negative stuff was never about the wrestling, it was the production, and I was reviewing the wrestling. So that's negatives out the way. And positives. Well, before getting into positives, my solid positives, something that I do want to talk about is, I've seen a lot of things that people complained about, which don't make sense to me. These were negatives to other people, but to me, I just saw it as you're just being nitpicky. Number one, they're not even being an independent wrestling promotion. Oh my god. Why aren't they being an indie promotion? Why? Because they're not. World of Sport was never built to be an independent wrestling promotion. It's built to be an ITV wrestling show. You're not going to see any Progress style stuff, Defiant, Rev Pro, Ring of Honor, any of that. That is not what World of Sport is. World of Sport was not an independent promotion. It's a wrestling show on ITV. And yeah, some of the matches, it was only towards the end that we got past having matches through breaks. But for the first 8 weeks mostly, it was you had your 10-minute time slot for a match. And that was what it was. It said TV. You watch your first part, you go to an ad break, you come back for the next part. And that's what it was. Each match had its own time slot in the show. And so some matches, again, felt rushed, like the ladder match from early on with everyone. But again, that's all reviewed beforehand. But those things, like I say, it was bound to happen because it's 10-minute time slots. Well, it's an hour time slot with 5 minutes of break each quarter. And yeah, that was just what it was. That's ITV. Like I say, World of Sport is not an independent promotion. Next. Why are the themes so generic? Oh my god, they've got such generic themes, it's so bad. But Joe Hendry gets his own theme because he's Joe Hendry and he's alright. But why does everyone else just get ba-dum, 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 bum, ba-dum? Like, that was something else that I saw a lot. One, copyright. Well, it's the main thing. Copyright. Why would ITV go out of their way to be like, yo, Beyonce, hit us a beat or let us use your song. We want to give it to Grado. I know it was Madonna, but yeah. Like, those types of things, like, why would they do that when it could be like, oh, Gary, get on your piano, get on GarageBand, drop us some tunes, we need one for Mr. Tyson, Mr. Grado, Mr. Rampage, like, that was cheaper and it was more effective and it's easier for ITV, instead of playing for copyrights and whatnot, when it's literally just Gary on his keyboard being like, boodoo, badoo, badoo, badoo. And then, say the Joe Hendry thing, Joe Hendry created his own music. It's not copyright to anyone. It could be copyright to Joe, but like they don't have to go. Like ITV don't have to go all the way to do copyright. They say to Joe, we love that you do your own music. We want you on World of Sport, and we want you to create your own theme song. It's as easy as that. Like that's nitty gritty complaining, looking for things like that. And now finally for nitty gritty complaining. Oh my god. What a stupid finale. It was so predictable that Justin Tyson was going to win the championship. Like, it was just so predictable. Well, guess what? Again, it's TV. It's storytelling. It was 10 weeks of storytelling. Like, this wasn't... Again, it's not independent wrestling. This was a show on ITV. It's about telling a story. Like, you look at Friends. Like, let's use Friends. Very first episode, pilot episode. They triggered the whole, ooh, Ross likes Rachel. Ooh, we're going to get something. And then, throughout the show, ooh, he's her lobster. Ooh, no, they're on a break. And it was always like, we're on, we're off. And then what happened? Did she get off the plane? She got off the plane. 10 years later, the very last episode, so that's from episode 1 to episode, whatever number episode it is, but the season finale, the show finale, it was, ooh, they're going to get together. Boom, they got together. Guess what? Predictable. Guess what? Nobody complained. Guess why? Storytelling. World of Sport, episode 1, Grado comes in, is the WOS champion after the pilot they filmed a couple of years ago. But we need a story. Every story has its hero. Every story has its villain. And coming into the show, Grado was the champion, but he was in the neutral zone, per se. So, of course, we've done the 5-man match to see who was going to face Grado. And that was the one where it was all thingy towards the end, and it was Sysum and Rampage, who became the number 1 contenders after the whole Linsky count-out situation. And guess what? That was where it started. We had the triple threat. Rampage won. Rampage is the champion. That is your villain. He is on top. And guess who he has with him? Every villain has their lowers, or their right hand and left hand people. And for Rampage, it was CJ and Shah. So, again, like I say, we had CJ Shah and Rampage at the top. And who's chasing them? Justin Tyson. There's your hero, there's your villain. But for every hero who has a story, there's always somebody that needs to get in their way to stop them from getting there. It was CJ and Shah always interrupting matches and whatnot. But then there was Stu, the man in charge. The Rampage is my champion evil boss. And yeah, so it was always going to be your hero gets to the end victorious. Rocky, start of the film, he gets knocked out. It's like, they could end it there, he's lost. Oh, you know, he's lost. But no, Rocky was a predictable film. But is it still one of the best films made? Definitely. Because he gets knocked out, he trains, he fights them again, he wins. Tyson, he loses his match, he has his journey of training and other matches to get him to the point of facing Rampage again. And guess what? The hero won. It's not about being predictable, it's about telling a story. Some stories are predictable, some stories aren't. Like, that's just what it is. Like, it's nothing to complain about. If you're that petty to not enjoy the journey and be like, it was predictable from episode 1, why would I watch it when I know he's going to win? It's so stupid. Like, that's stupid. That is pettiness. Tyson, again, hero. Rampage, villain. Hero beats villain. It was obvious storytelling. But guess what? The story being told was told so well and so brilliantly that there's no, oh, it was predictable, why would I watch? You watch it to enjoy the journey. You watch it to enjoy good wrestling. You claim to like wrestling. Oh, independent wrestling, WWE, New Japan. I love them all. And then you hear on a show of wrestling because it's predictable. Like, that's not enjoying wrestling. That's putting a show down for telling a story. Like, So, I've done my negatives, I've took out them negatives. So yeah, again, I've kind of gave out my positives in this. The storytelling was great. We had, obviously, the main story, which was Tyson and Rampage, and then there was the likes of Grado. He's not a champion no more, and Stu wants him to be all smartly dressed, suited up. And of course, that was a quick-ended story. But it was the proof, and obviously at the end, Grado was tag team champion. It's proof that Grado doesn't need to be suit and tie. He needs to be Grado. We had Crater. This, speaking of predictable stories, the Crater story, that was unpredictable. Because he very easily, and some might argue that he should have, I'm not putting into this, but he very easily could have went all 10 episodes undefeated. Going to season 2, and then he could have been on the title hunt, because now, like you said, we have the heroes, the champion, so we need a new villain. Could have been Crater as an undefeated beast, but of course now he has been defeated, and that's just, it was unpredictable. It was one guy couldn't beat him, two guys couldn't beat him, can three, and in the end 3 did. But like I said, it didn't have to go that way, which means unpredictable. So there's your unpredictable storytelling. And then again for storytelling, we had the Joe, Hendry and Martin Kirby fallout. Then there was everyone's favourite bromance breakup, with that going all the way into the penultimate episode. I almost said pre-ultimate. The penultimate episode, with the buzzer battle and the whole not eliminating each other situation. Like, the storytelling was fantastic. Commentary, other than those couple of things I mentioned at the start, was on point. It was always fun to listen to. Sometimes fascinating, it was entertaining. And yeah, and the themes and everything, I say, I've gone through all this. Like, I feel like this is a roundup now. Because it makes it feel like I thought it was all negative, but I've put a positive in my other negative feedback. Like, again, like, I feel like the main focus is the storytelling, and that's what I've mentioned. Because that's what this show was. It was 10 weeks of storytelling. And, like, that is what they did best, was the telling stories. Again, like I say, all my reviews go about all the matches. All the matches were great. Like, that's obviously a massive positive. Like, match quality was fantastic. But again, each individual match, reviews, channel, watch. And I mean, this isn't really to do with the product itself, but the championships looked fantastic. I really enjoyed the championships. Oh, speaking of positives, the women's division. So, I believe there was only 5 women in the division. It was Viper, Kaylee Ray, B, Aisha, and Casey Owens. Those were your 5 women of the women's division. More next season would be great. Hello, and I'm back. So, I believe I was talking about the women's division. That was like 2 hours ago for me. So, yeah. It was, again, Kelly Ray, who was champion the entire season. Viper, Aisha, B. Priestley, and Casey Owens. And I believe we only saw Casey the once, which was the big battle royal. That's something to think about, is that we had a 5-women division, and I believe we only had 3 mainly that were shown, which were B, Kaylee Ray, and Viper. Now, we had a little thing with Aisha and Viper with the whole who is the powerhouse of the division. But, again, only having a handful of women, it's not easy to make an entire division. But we did have the whole story of Kaylee Ray, and I could be wrong, she may be the smallest woman in the division, and yet she went as champion the entire way. Like, that's a story within itself, was that Kaylee Ray is the first ever WS Women's Champion, and she went the entire season without losing that championship. And that's facing people like B and like Viper for the championship, and again the battle royal with all the women. So I feel like for what they had, they did the women's division well, but the shorthand of it is that it was only a small division, so they could do a lot better with even if just a few more in the division. So I feel like I can't remember really what I talked about earlier on, so I'm just going to kind of bring it round now, and if I've missed something, then I've missed it, oops. But if not, it's time for my WS awards. So, I'm going to start with the women's division, and say my MVP of the women's division was, I'm going to have to go with Kaylee Ray. Like, Viper's up there. Viper did a really good job, but Kaylee Ray, again, being the smallest in the division, being champion the whole time, she had the shorthand with who is the It Couple match, but it is what it is. I feel like she stood out, and she is the woman. She is the woman of the women's division of WS. And yeah, so Kelly Ray is my MVP of the women's division. The tag division, which was very upsy downsy with the tournament. We had some that were temporary tag teams and some that stuck around. And so I'm just going to have to go with the team that stuck around, and that's obviously Alpha Bad. They survived the tournament, became the first champions, and made a fantastic team, and really were able to get under the crowd's skin, which worked. And then even with Kip and Phil, they had that little Bill and Carl moment, which again, like, that's just them being them. And of course, again, Yestin's singles match was really good. It's a shame, again, that they lost the tag team championships in the finale, but yeah, I feel like those are my tag team MVPs. They've done fantastic, rarely lost, and like I say, they won the tournament. And for my main, the MVP of WS, I could easily say somebody like, Justin Sison with his story, but I want to go for like the lower half, the people where they weren't the main on the show, but they were able to make themselves feel big. which is an ironic word to use because I'm going to have to go with Robbie X. I was torn with this. I had Adam Maxted, who, let's say, did on the whole bromance thing, then the bromance broke up and he was the one who kept the contract. And yeah, I feel like Maxted done great. Then there was Crater, who obviously he went undefeated until he wasn't. Which is why my number one is Robbie X. Had Crater went the entire way undefeated, easily would have been him. But it took one man, it was three people, but it took one man to be the difference maker, and that was Robbie X. And then we had the Mask v Mask, and who won? Robbie X. And even before he joined in on the Crater stuff, Robbie was the standout in the ladder match that was early on in the show, and he done brilliantly in that. So, yeah, I feel like my MVP of WS is Robbie X. He done fantastic. So we have Robbie X as the male MVP, Alpha Bad is the tag team MVPs, and Kaylee Ray as the women's MVP. And just as a little side one, let's go for a commentary MVP. So we had Alex Shane, SoCal Val, and executive producer boss man Stu Bennett. Breaking news Bennett, as it became known. But my MVP has to be none other than the lead woman, the lead woman, SoCal Val. She done brilliantly. For the women's commentary has never been a popular thing. Even Renee on WWE's just made history by Raw commentary. But I feel like SoCal Val, she got put on ITV commentary and done brilliantly well. She never let the guys overshadow her. I felt like she was the top of them. She was one that they had to answer to, and we're talking again, Stu Bennett, the big boss man, and even he couldn't keep up with Val with things like the buzzer battle, her pressing the buzzer. And yeah, I feel like again she had some of the best one-liners, cream and sugar. We're going into the handsome version, and for some reason those were the only two that I can always remember. But yeah, those like little one-liners that she had were brilliant. And yeah, so SoCal Val is my commentary MVP. We had two referees, which were Tom Scarborough and Steve Linsky. Let's go Steve Linsky, because anybody who's watched my finale review saw my reception to Steve Linsky. So Steve Linsky is my referee / official MVP. We only had the one ring announcer, which was Phil Seymour. So of course, by default, and by how great he was, Phil is my ring announcer MVP. No, I don't know names of camera operators and whatnot, so I can't go that deep into it. But yeah, those are my MVPs. Again, this is all 2 hours later for me, but I did mention other things like my negative, positive and reactions type situation earlier. So I guess we'll close it there. That is my overall thoughts, my final thoughts on the first season of World of Sport Wrestling, the return of World of Sport Wrestling. Now, even now, we still don't know for sure if we're getting a second season. The live event, again, couple of months away now. So, we've got them to look forward to. And, yeah, that's been... Well, I've been Ryan. It's been WOS Wrestling. So, I'll see you next time. And before I go, there'll be a link in the description. I have released a Patreon if you want to support me there. Again, link in the description. All information and stuff will be on the Patreon. So, yeah, if you do that, thank you. Speaking of which, Queen Kirsty Pie on Twitter, just my friend from Defiant, my first and right now only patron. Thank you for that. Thank you. So, yeah, I guess I'll close. Bye!